Okay, page 4. A different type of question here. 30 is 50% of what number? See if you can actually turn this into an equation. Let me start you off. 30 can be written as 30, okay? Is becomes an equal sign. How do you think we're going to deal with 50%? We usually turn percentages into whats when we're trying to calculate things. If you want to calculate something, 50% is not going to help. I mean, 50% needs to be written as a decimal, right? So turn 50% into a decimal. The decimal point is here at the moment. To turn a percentage into a decimal, you move the decimal point 2 spaces to the left to get 0.50 or 0.50. Okay? Now, what do you do with of? Of is what? Of is multiply by. What number? What am I going to do with this? What number? Just stick a letter in there. It could be any letter, right? I guess when people are looking for a number, they often like to use the letter N. But you could also use X or A or B or C or whatever. But I guess I'll just use N. I guess people like that a lot. So anyway, for the number. So 30 is 50% of what number? We've turned this sentence into an equation. Now we can solve it. So this is the reason I like to do it this way. Is many reasons. One is it's great practice to turn a sentence into an equation. That is really good practice. You'll need that in the next few classes. We have already learned how to solve equations. Why don't we use our knowledge to use our skills to do things with? Okay, that's another reason. And it's kind of a straightforward way of doing it. But in any case, do you know the answer to this, by the way? Well, anyway, so the answer shouldn't surprise us when we get it, I hope. But so I want to get the n by itself. N is being multiplied by 0.50. What do I need to divide this by to get n on its own? I've got an equation. N is being multiplied by this number. I just divide by that number, don't I? And I must divide both sides by that number. 30 divided by 0.50. Okay. So I guess I need to calculate that. 30 divided by 0.50. And once again, you could think about this as, look, if I multiply it by 10 over 10, I get 10 times 0.5 is 5 on the bottom, 300 on the top. Okay? Because if I'm going 0.5 into 30, I need to move the decimal point 1 space to the right, and also this decimal point 1 space to the right, and stick in a placeholder at 0, because this is going to become 5 into 300. Okay? Now 5 into 30 goes 6 times, and 5 into 0 goes 0 times. So the answer becomes 60 anyway. So 60 equals n. Does that surprise you? N is 60. 30 is 50% of what number? 30 is 50% of 60. 30 is 50% is a half, isn't it? 30 is 1/2 of 60. That makes sense, right? The number is 60. Yep. Okay, 22 is 25% of what number? Let's first turn it into an equation so we get some practice. So 22 can be written like that. Is can be written as what? Is equals, right? Write 25% as a decimal. 25% as a decimal. Take the decimal point and move it where? 1, 2 spaces to the right. 0.25 or 0.25. Of becomes what? Multiply, right? And what number becomes what? So it's 0.25 multiplied by what number just becomes some letter like n. You can plug in a letter. Okay. Now we can solve this equation. How do I solve it? N is being multiplied by 0.25, so I need to divide. In order to get n by itself, okay, I need to divide this by 0.25, right? And then these numbers cross cancel, you see. So you get n on its own. But you must divide this side by 0.25 as well, right? So then you have to calculate 22 divided by 0.25. So that is 0.25 into 22. And I can't divide a decimal into something. So I must move this decimal point 2 spaces to the right, and also move this decimal point 2 spaces to the right. Okay? So that gives me 25 into 2200. So what does that become? $25 into 22 won't go. 25 into 220. I'm going to guess 8 times. Let's see what happens. 8 times 5 is 40. Carry the 4. 8 times 2 is 16. And 4 is 20. Subtract. And I get 20. Bring a 0 down. 25 into 200. I think that might be 8 times. What do you think? 8 times 5, 40, carry the 4. 8 times 2, 16, and 4 is 20. Subtract, and I get 0. So the remainder is 0. The answer then is just 88. So 22 over 0.25 is in fact 88. So the number is 88. And so what I've said is now 25% of something, you might remember that's actually 1/4. You remember that? 22 is 1/4 of 88. Does that make sense? 22 is 1/4 of 88. It is, right? If you take 88 and divide it by 4, you get 22, right? What about this one? 1710 is 18% of what number? In other words, if you're at a restaurant, and I have a bunch of kids, so this happens sometimes, and let's say the tip is 18% and the tip turns out to be $17.10. What was the original bill then? If the tip is 18%, like what would the original bill have been? Because $17.10 is the 18%. So $17.10 is 18% of what bill at the restaurant? What number? Okay. So let's go ahead and solve this one, right? So 1710, 17.10, that goes there, is, how can you write is in an equation? Equals? How about 18%? What's that? As a decimal. What's 18% as a decimal? 18, the decimal point is here, so I need to move decimal point 2 spaces to the left, and I get 0.18 or 0.18. Of, what's of? Of means multiply, right? It's kind of like, just if you remember, 2 of those apples. 2 of those apples is like saying I want 2 of those apples, or I want 2 times an apple. 2 times an apple. Of means multiply, right? 18% of what number? How can you write what number? N, or X, or A, or B, or whatever you want. Some letter, right? So I have 0.18 times N. If N is being multiplied by 0.18, how can I get n by itself? I need to divide by, to get n by itself, I need to divide that by 0.18, right? And now these guys cross cancel, but I must divide this side by 0.18 also. So my goodness, 17.10 divided by 0.18 is what I need to do. So let's do that. 0.18 into 17.10. I cannot divide a decimal into anything, so I need to turn it into a whole number. So I'll go move the decimal point 2 spaces to get to make sure that that's 18, because I want to use 18, a whole number, right? But I must do the same to this guy, move him 2 spaces. So this was the trick we learned when we were dividing decimals, and we're getting to review that now, right, basically, which is good. So go ahead and do this. What do you get? 18 into 17 won't go. 18 into 171. I'm going to try 9 times, I think. 9 8 72. Carry the 7. 9 ones is 9 and 7 is 16. Subtract. So that 7 becomes a 6. This becomes 1. 11 minus 2 is 9. 18, bring the 0 down. 18 into 90 goes how many times? Let's try 5 times. 5 eighths is 40, carry the 4. 5 ones is 5, and 4 is 9. Subtract 0. Remainder 0. So the answer is exactly 95. So the answer is that the restaurant bill, you see, well, it's $17.10 is 18% of $95. So or the whole family at the restaurant and the extended family and whoever else turns up, it's $95 is the total bill at the restaurant. The tip is 18%, and so the tip is, you know, $17.10. So if you were just told, once again, if you were just told the tip was $17.10, you knew it was 18%, then that means the bill must have been 95. So we've just figured that out, right? Okay, by all means, press pause and try this one by yourself. See what you get, and then check the video. What is 5.4% of 420? Okay, this is the kind of first type we tried. Just throw it in here at the end of the video, just to see how you're going to do with it. All we have to do is get 5.4% of this, okay? So we just have to turn this into a decimal. Turn that into a decimal. Move the decimal point 1, 2 spaces to the left, and stick in a placeholder 0. So 0.054. Oops, 4. Or 0.054 of multiplied by 420, right? So I need to multiply this times this. So let's do that. 0.054, and I guess I'll do the 420 up here. Multiply that. 4 zeros, 0. 4 twos, 8. 4 fours, 16. Put down a placeholder 0 times by 5. 5 zeros is 0. 5 twos is 10. Carry the 1. 5 fours is 20, and 1 is 21. And then multiply by these zeros. Let's not bother with that. 0 and 0 is 0. 8 and 0 is 8. 6 and 0 is 6. That makes 2. That makes 2. How many decimal points in the question? 1, 2, 3. So how many in the answer? 1, 2, 3. Need to put it here. So 22.68 would be the answer there. What is 5.4% of 420? The answer is 22.68. If this was a real life example of this, would be kind of saying, well, let's say your Medicare tax on your wages is 5.4%. Okay? So your weekly wage, let's say, is $420. 5.4% of that becomes $22.68. So that's your Medicare tax per week on your wages of $420, right?